Um, Thanks for coming to this presentation. I hope you are having a good time at the camp and that you enjoyed fondue and studying last night, like I did. In our company, we use paragraphs a lot, and I will try to pass you some of the ideas, tips, and how can you improve your paragraphs workflow in your content creation. My name is Milos. I work for MD Systems, and we are one of the maintainers of paragraphs module and some of the related modules. So I will try to show you how the workflow works for us when we are working with paragraphs. So this is a short talk, so I structured it a bit as frequently asked questions about paragraphs. I will try to give you answers to some of these questions here, and also show you some of the recent features in paragraphs development branch that are not yet tagged in a release. So let's start then. So the first question is how to apply different styles to the same paragraph type. For instance, imagine you have a link paragraph type, and then you want to style it as a button. So that button could be primary button, secondary button, call to action button, and so on. So how would you do this? You could do it, for instance, by creating a new field, and then you vary your styles based on that specific field value. Or one of the other options would be to use, for instance, behavior plugins that are available in Paragraphs Core, and to use Paragraphs Collection module, which adds some of the behavior plugins implementations for paragraphs. It also adds style plugin, which we are going to show how it looks here. So the style plugin, this is a paragraph type configuration form. There is a list of behaviors. These are behavior plugins. Here, those are provided by Paragraphs Collection module. And we can see, for instance, grid layout plugin and style plugin that we are interested in. So the style plugin allows you to add style groups and to enable this plugin for your specific type. So in this example, as I said before, we have buttons group, we have style plugin enabled, and we have default style or default button style selected. So how do we create groups? Paragraphs Collection module works by allowing you to create YAML files. This is a style group YAML file, which should go to your team or your module or paragraphs.style group. You just need to add the name of the group and label. That's the label that shows here. You see buttons. And the buttons up there is just machine name. So the first step is to create a style group. The second step is to create specific styles that apply to this group. Here we have button primary, we have button secondary, we also have call to action button. So what you need to do is, again, create a simple array, button primary, title for that style, and list of classes, CSS classes that you want to apply to this specific paragraph. So here we have button primary, button secondary, and so on. You can have as many styles as you want. And how it looks on the form. On the content creation form, you will have two tabs. There's a content tab, which you use normally to submit your content, to create a link here, to put link text. And there's the other tab. There's the behavior tab, which is being used to apply sort of behaviors to this paragraph, to this specific paragraph. In this example, we have 4 different link paragraphs, which are basically the same in structure. They have the same link, the same text, but they have different style. The first one has default, and you can see the others, primary, secondary, and call to action. And how it looks on when saved on the no view page, it looks like this. So you can have primary, secondary, or call to action button. So in general, they are all the same in structure, but they have different styling. So this way you don't need to create different paragraph types for each specific button style, or you don't need to create new fields, so you can create different style configuration. That's one of the common questions that we had. So second question is, how can you reuse paragraphs? So for instance, imagine Drupal Mountain Camp site, and there's a list of sponsors that you want to place on different pages. And imagine you use paragraphs. So you want to avoid creating each time on each page a list of gold sponsors, silver sponsors, and others. One of the ways to solve this is to use paragraphs library module, which allows you to create a paragraph and store it, and then just reuse it on every page you want. So paragraphs library module is a sub-module in paragraphs core. You just enable it. You will get a new tab, paragraphs, which shows a list of existing library items. So library item is a new entity, which is just a wrapper for your paragraphs. Here we have Drupal Europe Diamond Sponsors, library item, new. You can add new library items. And then when creating a new library item, you need a label for that specific entity, and you need paragraphs that you want to reuse on the content page. So it looks like this. And the next step would be to reuse this library item. So paragraphs library creates a new paragraphs type, which is called just library. It adds a reference field where you can basically just reference already created library item. And this way, you are just reusing your paragraph. If there is a new sponsor for Mountain Camp, you need to update it only once, and then it will be updated on every page that you reuse this. So it's a quite cool feature that you can provide to your content creators so they can create reusable content easily. There's also option to unlink from library. So what it does, it just takes that paragraphs and creates them in a editable way. So if you have some specific page of sponsors that you want to add a new sponsor, which is only specific to that page, you can click unlink, and then you are only making changes on that specific page. You are not affecting any other usage of that library entity. So here there is also another option. So instead of going to paragraphs tab content page, you can create library items from let's say node edit page. So imagine you're creating a page, you want to create intro, and then you realize this could be something that can be reused. You click 3 dots, which are operations, and then you can go with promote to library, which is going to convert this paragraph into a library entity, and it means it's reusable. Next question would be how to use drag and drop mode to better organize my paragraphs. So your huge list of paragraphs could look like this. This is table sort feature in core, so you can use the icon on the left side to reorganize those paragraphs, but sometimes it gets tricky if you have many of these, or if you have we call it containers, if you have paragraph types that contain other paragraphs, so nested paragraphs. So it's sometimes tricky to organize a long list of paragraphs. In Drupal, in paragraphs core, there is a feature which is called drag and drop mode. You need an external library for it, and then if you enable it, you could have a sorting which looks like this. So we can show it here in demo. We change the mode to drag and drop. Here you see nested paragraphs. You see your long list of paragraphs. You just take it, drag and drop, move it upwards, and it just works. You can also use nested paragraphs and put it inside of the other ones, or remove it there. It feels much more natural and easier to organize your long page. When you are done, you just click complete drag and drop, and you're good. And this is one of the features that's just available in paragraphs module. So you can just use it. It doesn't need any other module or any other custom code. Looks pretty cool. The fourth question I asked myself was how to organize my long list of paragraph types. As I said before, if you are not using behavior plugins, you can end up with many paragraphs, and then creating a new paragraph, it can be sometimes tricky. You might see this if you want to create a new paragraph, then you have to choose between a long list of those, and it's not the best user experience you can have. One of the custom solutions that we ended up using with is to use third-party settings on your paragraphs type config entity. Here we added group type, so we are grouping all paragraphs into groups that are related. So for instance, we have a content group where you can use text or intro. We have reference group where you can reference your medias or library items or other nodes and so on. So you add a group and you can end up with something like this. So instead of a long list of paragraphs, you're splitting them into groups. Here we have 5 groups: content, title, media, layout, and reference. They can have icons. Icons are already in paragraph score, so you can apply an icon for each of these types. And it feels also much better for content creators to navigate through paragraphs. So you have tabs here. You have. I think it's much easier for them to realize what they want to use. As I said, this is a custom code, but it's not really much of work to implement it. It's just one simple third-party setting on your paragraph type, and then depending on that, we split it into the groups. I think Miro was planning to release this or put it in paragraph score, so you might get this soon in just paragraphs module. Next question here would be how to extend paragraphs actions and convert one paragraph into a different type. So in our workflows and our distribution, we have many paragraphs, and sometimes we want to convert one to another. For instance, you want to convert a card to reference. You want to convert text to hero plugin or something like this. So you want to experiment with it. You want to provide users some of the conversion types. In paragraphs core, there is this hook. It's called widget actions alter. Widget actions, which can you use to add new operations to your paragraphs. In this case, we are just adding a new operation. It's called convert, so it will appear in the list of other operations. For instance, where you can remove paragraph, where you can duplicate it, or where you can promote to library, as we've seen with library items. So we have to implement the hook. We create a new button. There's a convert button, and then it appears here. So here's a text paragraph. When we open the operation, it says convert to cart, and you can end up with using conversions that look like this. So besides creating a button, you would also, of course, need to implement that callback and manually provide a logic which does conversion. So in this case, we have a paragraph type, we have a text paragraph, we want to convert it in a card, which is more structured. So we've seen here, it uses title, text, and link, so that are pre-filled from the text paragraph. You can also do the opposite. Of course, this is custom logic to map these fields, but yeah, it's something that you can implement, or should be easy to implement if this is important to you. So the next two questions are basically something that we hear a lot, so I just put it here. One of these is how to properly enable paragraph translations. So as you might know, the paragraph fields itself and the revision field, it's not translatable yet, or paragraphs do not support those. So in your language settings page, you would just need to make sure that you untick the paragraphs field. All the other fields should be translatable. And on the paragraphs type configuration, you make sure that all of your paragraph types are translatable, except of the entity revision or paragraph field. There are issues in paragraphs issue queue to support asynchronous paragraphs translation, but this is not ready yet. So you just need to make sure that paragraph field is not translatable and everything else inside the paragraph types is. And then your translation should just work. The last but not least question is how to configure the content moderation with workflow with paragraphs. That's a module that's in core since 8.6, and it's quite common to use it to create your workflows with nodes. But you might ask yourself, how do I use this with paragraphs? The answer is just you don't use it, because paragraphs as entities don't exist on their own. So they are related to the host where they apply. So to make sure your workflows work correctly, you just don't enable workflows for paragraphs. On the other side, you would want to enable workflows for instance, library items, as those can exist on their own. Since they are just wrapper around entities, you can reuse. You can create workflows for library items in the same way as you would for node entities, for instance. And then you can have other persons to approve a new sponsor in our example for Mountain Camp before one editor just publishes it. That's more or less it, what I have from frequently asked questions. And here's an addition, what we recently done in the 8.x branch. As I said at the beginning, there was no release yet to put these features in the new tech release, but you can see what's new. For instance, we worked a lot to improve the user experience in the backend. Now you can have summary on your fields. These summaries are put in 2 lines. So you can have on the first line there is a summary which represents the content of your paragraph, and the second line are behavior plugins if you are using some of these. There is a count icon that's improved. I will show the screenshots just later. We improved paragraphs editing on mobile, so it's more responsive and it's easier to edit and add paragraphs on mobile. And regarding the paragraphs library module, we integrated with entity usage, so you can now check where your library item is used, so you can avoid deleting it if it's used in many content items. These are just a couple of screenshots that are proving what we said before. Here you have a count icon improved. The container is a nested paragraph and contains 8 other paragraphs. We see white nested container, cardinal link. This is a summary which was generated out of sub-paragraphs that this container contains. We see a style, it's white, so that means the behavior plugin style is applied to this paragraph. So it's much easier to see what's inside, basically without editing this item, as it takes a lot of time, as it contains 8 items. It gives you a better summary. How do you what's happening under this paragraph, let's say. There's also above, we've seen there's a style alternative, and there is a layout plugin applied to columns 1 1. It's similar as before. Here's one of the recent features that's improved. You can have unpublished paragraphs, and this way you get unpublished icons. So you see, for instance, you have again the same example, list of sponsors. There is one more sponsor that you don't want to publish immediately, so you just unpublish this paragraph, and you get an icon that this paragraph is unpublished. So it's better overview for you to see what's happening inside your structure, basically. Here's the responsive page. Here's how it looks to edit paragraphs on mobile. You get the new icons. There is an edit icon, so you can click it so the specific paragraph edits. And also there are operations. They are a bit zoomed in, so it's easier to navigate on mobile. There is also option to collapse and close this list of paragraphs above. So again, small improvements to make your paragraphs editing easier. That's it that I have for this short talk. I would like to hear your questions or some of the tips you have, and maybe improvement suggestions to what I said. Yeah.
I had a small thing. Sorry, my voice is.
No worries.
The cheese was hard. No, but it's about the icons. I mean, just the current version of the module. I would have liked to use them, but then we have a setup where we need to commit everything to the configuration and then deploy it somewhere. And in a way, these icons are a bit in between configuration and content.
Yes.
And I think that the best way we found was some kind of tricks in the install hook where you upload the image and then you get the UID. So I was wondering if there's any tips about that, or if the situation is still the same.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a known problem. I think there is already an issue in paragraphs that's tackling this, and it should solve it, I think, very soon. We probably have some patches for that specific issue, and then you would be able to just add your icons with configuration. So I think it's already there. I can show you the ID afterwards. But yeah, it was somebody already proposed that basically.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just one small question: would it be technically possible if a client wants a published page, and then they have text paragraphs and they have a strict workflow rule that someone can create a new revision of only a text paragraph? So, like, would content moderation be technically possible on paragraphs only or not?
On specific paragraphs. So you only want to allow them to change specific paragraphs.
Like they change the text and this gets a new draft, but on the customer side, on the anonymous side, it's only the old text is still visible until the draft gets published of that specific paragraph.
What we have, I think it's already in paragraphs collection module, is lock plugin, where you can apply to all of your paragraph types basically. So in this case, I think you would apply lock plugin to all paragraph types except text. So then that way they won't be able to make any changes to other paragraphs other than text. So they could just update text and then that works, other paragraphs stay where they are. Yeah. Okay, so we have no more time. Thank you all. If you have some questions, I'll be here around afterwards so we can discuss. Thank you.